These two ISIS members had their hands on the shoulders of someone with a bag over his head. Now, it doesn't take much for you to put two and two together of where this man was about to go, but the footage of the actual play of it, not just the screenshot, came with audio that clearly shows the two men alongside this victim saying, essentially, words to the effect of, "I'm sorry, brother. I know this is not what you want, but this is what has to happen. You will be redeemed by God." And when I heard that, I thought, that is a totally different spin on
or it's a bit too late to be making enemies.
Yeah, that's a good point. But it's a totally different spin on evil, because as someone, as I say, I think a group that I can sort of outsource all of my hatred towards comes quite well packaged in your ISISes and your Hamases of the world. But seeing that it really puts me back in touch with the fact that these people genuinely think what they're doing is right. It is not carrying out evil for the sake of evil. And that's where I find evil such an interesting moral question, is if you don't think you're doing something wrong, are you being evil? And Sam Harris has a great book called The Moral Landscape, which speaks on this matter of what constitutes morality, what defines evil, how does free will come into this point. And it's a great question, because you think, we can, from a Western perspective, look and say, there is no world where throwing people off of buildings because they're homosexual or clothing women besides their eyes is an acceptable thing to carry out. But in some parts of the world, this is totally normalised. Now, Sam's point on this is we should have a bearing of essentially the way to understand whether something is right or wrong is the amount of people that are objectively, positively or negatively influenced by it. So we can look and say the more people that die as a result of a rule, the worse that rule is, and vice versa. But I do think evil is a tremendously difficult question to, or sort of emotion to capture, because I think, for instance, I've paid quite a lot of attention to psychopathy because I find psychopathy very interesting. And when you can look at the instances, there's one instance that I will never forget on a book that I read on psychopathy called The Psychopath Test, of someone who was released from...
Did you pass?
Yes. He was released from Borstal, I think. Not Borstal, doesn't matter. And
Young Offenders Institute.
Yeah, certainly not Borstal. It was a...
Do they have Borstal anymore? Is it?
I don't know.
It's probably one of those words that has been outlawed. Where
was Ronnie Cray put into?
Broadmoor,
that's the one. Broadmoor. Someone was released from Broadmoor on essentially
Jimmy Savile used to go and visit him, didn't he?
Interesting. Yeah, interesting relations. And this guy, they essentially did a test. They'd brought someone in who was working with psychedelics and essentially empathy therapy, and they were trying to see whether you could basically reform a psychopath, which you can't. And when they did this, they sort of temporarily released these people. They gave them more freedom than they would have otherwise been allowed. They were still in the institution, but they had more freedom. With said freedom, one of the targeted or sort of labelled psychopaths took a hatchet to someone and killed him. And when he was asked, "Why did you do that?" he said, "Well, because I wanted to know what a hatchet did to a person." And I thought that's an exceptional circumstance because of the psychopathy, but that sort of morbid curiosity certainly detracts from evil for me. Because I think there's such a lack of understanding there that is so key to that you are fundamentally missing human existence, essentially. There's something terribly wrong there.
Making it banal.
Yeah, but unintentionally. There is no, in many respects, there's no thought to that. It is just curiosity. And I think that's quite a prevalent theme of evil, is people will carry out things that are wicked and horrendous, and it's not as simple. I don't think there are many people in the world, or potentially even in history, who have the single-minded focus of total destruction with total understanding of that destruction and total enjoyment of that destruction. Those people do unequivocally exist, but I think they are a very, very, very significant minority when it comes to acts of evil across history.